Okay, my name's John Niblo. I work for Midwich. I run a team of audio specialists in Manchester. So we're available for you guys should you have any inquiries with regards to audio. Today we've got a webinar based on the fundamentals of SpeechLine and digital wireless technology, and we partner with Sennheiser, and we have a very strong relationship there, and with one of our major partners. And as I say, we run an audio division where you can contact us directly or through your account management channel. I'm going to pass you over to Mark A from Sennheiser, and he will introduce the guys from Sennheiser, and we can get this presentation going. Okay, thank you. I'll pass you over to Mark A.
Good morning, guys. Mark Haig, Sales Manager, and I have the pleasure of looking after the direct account for us, Midwich. Today, presenting, we should have had Aman Lal. Unfortunately, due to not being able to taste his meal at all last night, he is now not being allowed in the office. So I apologise, we are going to not have Aman Lal on the call at all now as it stands. But we will have Joe Mahoney, our Technical Application Engineer. So he is the main dude, and he'll be running the presentation today. Just in case you don't know a huge amount about Sennheiser, possibly we are best known for making high quality microphones for 75 years, of which were used in the professional music industry, where many high profile artists use our mics, I'm pleased to say. We're also very well known and frequently used in the West End and around the world in many theatres, and the manufacturer of choice for multiple shows. We're highly respected in the broadcasting world, including sports and TV programmes. And for the aficionados amongst you, if you've ever heard of a brand called Neumann, well, we completely own them, and they are renowned for their exceptional quality and that's used on stage and in recording studios in particular. And we brought this wealth of experience and quality into the business world. So without further ado, let's get into SpeechLine Digital Wireless. Joe, over to you, sir.
Yeah, thank you very much. So hopefully you can all see me now. Thank you very much for joining the webinar this morning. Hopefully it's going to be nice and educational for you, all based around our SpeechLine digital wireless solution. Really a system first system ever brought out that was really dedicated purely for speech applications. All of the features built within the system really are based around speech, so intelligibility here is key, but we also have built the system to be really easy and simple to use. So all of the problems that you may have encountered before with frequencies, with audio levels, with actual monitoring and adjusting settings, all of these problems kind of go away when you use the SpeechLine digital wireless. So we actually say that it's aimed more towards the education and corporate market, purely because it is once again based around that speech application. So yeah, the world's first digital wireless microphone system exclusively for speech. No audio know-how is required at all for this system. Everything's built in. So yeah, really takes away the troubles of using wireless equipment. So let's have a little look at a system overview. What do we have to offer in the portfolio? So we actually have two different receivers. We have a rack mountable receiver, which you see on the right hand side. You can stick two of those, side by side and get the whole 1U rack for two of those receivers. So that's more of a traditional style, but we also have in the middle what kind of looks a little bit like a wireless access point. That is actually a receiver, and you can have either a 2-channel receiver or a 4-channel receiver built into that one box. That also has all the antenna distribution built into it, so you literally pop that on the ceiling or high up on a wall in the space that you intend to use the system, and it's just going to sit there happily and just run those for you. We have lots of transmitter options, so you'll see just there we have our handheld and our body pack solution in our 4N charging solution. We also have a really nice head mic, specifically designed once again around the SpeechLine solution. So it's really silver in colour, based around that kind of corporate feel, and really high quality. And then on the right hand side just there, we have a boundary microphone, a gooseneck microphone, and the charging option there is actually via an induction plate. So this is wireless Qi charging to actually power up these goosenecks and boundaries. One thing that I'll say with all of these transmitters, they can also be powered and charged via a micro USB cable. The only one device that can't actually be powered while you're using it, can't be charged up while you're using it, is the handheld. The reason being is actually the plug to charge it is actually situated on the other side of the battery pack. So when you slide it in like so, you obviously can't charge it at the same time. But we'll look at all of these things in a bit more detail as we go through. So I said that this is really simple and easy to use, and it kind of does everything for you in the background automatically. So what do I mean by that? What kind of features do we have? So first of all, we have an audio level management. So this is an automatic gain control, which basically means if I'm, talking into the microphone and maybe I'm whispering or maybe I'm, shouting really loud, the microphone is just going to automatically adjust the settings and the output. So you get a relatively consistent output regardless of who's speaking. And the same applies, I can have it right up next to my mouth, or I can actually have it quite far away, and it's going to have a very similar effect. It's going to level that out so you get consistent audio through the conversation. So really good in, once again, those kind of educational scenarios with a lecturer who maybe doesn't have very good microphone technique. It eliminates all of that for them. So really easy to use. And then what we also have is automatic frequency management. So number one, you don't need to buy licenses for the equipment or anything like that. Part of the 1.9 gig DECT spectrum actually dictates that the system will allocate itself a spare frequency, which means you don't have to worry about any of that kind of coordination side of things when it comes to frequencies, which has always been a big problem with people in the past. Maybe they have a standard UHF analog system. It's been working fine for a year. A year later, it all kind of fails. So you don't have to worry about anything like that with a DECT-based system like SpeechLine. And the other feature that we have there is auto interference management as well. So I mentioned that they have this automatic frequency that they get, and they operate on that frequency. What they also do is they secure a backup channel as well. So if they start to get any interference on that main channel, they just flick over to the spare channel. That then becomes the main, and they get another backup again. So you can really rely on this system to perform and work in any kind of scenario. And the last thing, which is a really nice feature on this slide, is the AES 256 encryption technology. So obviously, some speeches are going to be quite sensitive. Maybe they're going to have information that they don't want people to listen to, and that encryption technology is actually going to prevent people from listening in. And not only is it AES 256 encrypted, DECT also has encryption. So we have 2 layers of encryption on SpeechLine, so no one is ever going to be able to listen to a conversation. As we mentioned, we have the audio level management, this AGC built into the microphone. But as we also said, it's really optimized for speech intelligibility. So on the top of the microphone, we have the E865 capsule. It's a condenser capsule. It's super cardioid. And although we say it's dedicated more towards speech, it actually has a frequency response from 20 hertz all the way up into 20 kilohertz. So it's a really, really nice capsule designed towards speech applications, but you can actually go further than that if you like. We kind of touched on this before. It operates in the license-free band, 1.9 gigahertz. So you don't have to worry about any of that licensing side of things. And definitely a key benefit of the SpeechLine technology is the batteries. So we use lithium-ion batteries here, really precise battery life details that it gives you. So we can tell by the minute how long the battery life is. We can tell how many charging cycles the battery's had, so we can kind of monitor and manage that. What we generally say is about 500 full charges and discharges, you'll start to get deterioration on the battery. But once again, 500 cycles is kind of 5 years plus what we say to people. So you can definitely guarantee that this system's batteries are going to last a long time. The handheld and the body packs have a battery life of approximately 15 hours. The goosenecks and the boundaries have about 8 hours plus. And what I would say is our figures are pretty reserved. So sometimes you'll switch these on and the handhelds will actually say something like 18 hours instead of 15. So we definitely give you kind of the minimum expected battery life there. And we have a multi-room mode. So you can use up to 20 simultaneous links in one space with SpeechLine. It's a bit of a limitation of the amount of spectrum that we have available. But the great thing about this is we actually have the ability to reduce the range of the devices. So if you're in a 10 by 10 meter room, you can actually restrict the RF power to 10 meters, which means when you go in the adjacent room, you're not going to be picking up any of that transmission. So you can actually stack another 20 channels of SpeechLine in the next room, and you can scale that as much as you like. So you could have, 200 rooms all kind of stacked up with each other, with 20 SpeechLine links all in each room. So certainly in terms of campus-wide audio, we can scale this system up to meet pretty much any demand. If you do need to go above 20 channels in one room, you can use a mixture of, say, SpeechLine and analog systems, or you could go all the way back to a more traditional kind of analog UHF system at that stage. But it's not very likely you're going to encounter 20 plus channels in a educational or corporate environment, especially in one room. Actually built into SpeechLine is a full integrated DSP. It has EQ and a bunch of presets in there, which means actually you don't need any kind of complicated external DSP or mixer. Everything can actually be handled and adjusted on the actual hardware itself. And what's even nicer is you don't actually even have to touch the hardware if you don't want to. So we have all of these really cool features on there, but we actually have a back-end bit of software called Control Cockpit. And this will allow you to make adjustments to the microphone and to the receiver without actually having to manually go into the menu. And we'll actually do a bit of a live demonstration of Control Cockpit for you in a second. So components. What I'm going to quickly do is switch around, because I'm going to hopefully show you. Okay, I don't think I can. Not to worry. I'll keep it on the small screen because you'll definitely want some visuals from the slide. But we'll go through those components in a little bit more detail just now. So we have our two receivers just there. We'll start off with the rack mount receiver. So hopefully you can kind of see this in my hand. We won't kind of go into really fine details with this, so you don't need to see anything in too much detail. But here's the receiver in my hands just now. We've got the display at the front with a toggle button just there. We also have a pair button at the front as well. And the only other thing is the on-off button. So really nice and easy design, simple to use. If we have a look at the back, we have the antenna connections just there, either side. And what's quite specific about SpeechLine and DECT technology in general is we have to use non-standard RF connectors to actually meet the legislation around DECT devices. So we don't use BNCs, we don't use SMAs, we don't use coax or any of the kind of familiar RF sockets that you may see. What we actually use is reverse SMA. And like I said, this is really to meet the legislation around DECT devices. We have an XLR output, and we also have a phono output there as well, depending on where you want to plug into. And we have our LAN connection, which is where we can actually adjust settings via that control port using our Control Cockpit software. So that's the rack mount receiver just there. Now if we have a look at our MCR, our multi-channel receiver, pop this off the back. So this is the 4-channel version. So you may see just there, we've got the 4 LED indicators at the bottom. Everything's kind of switched off at the moment. But when that's on and it doesn't have a link, it will be red. And when it is connected and paired up to a transmitter, just like kind of Bluetooth connection, then it will actually go green. On the back, we have our PoE and our primary Dante port, and then we also have a secondary Dante port as well for redundancy. And lastly, hopefully you might be able to see it just there, we've got a little analog output as well, and that's going to take all 4 channels of audio and get all of them out on the one analog socket just there. So like I said, this is a real nice receiver, 2 or 4 channels, and you can either pop that up on a wall, or even, like I said, up nice and high on the ceiling, and this is just going to do all of your receiving and your antenna distribution in the one box. So those are the receivers. We would recommend, you know, if you are going to be putting the receivers in the room, go for the multi-channel receiver. It's really nice and simple to use, and we'll explain why in a bit more detail in a second. We then have the handheld and the body pack solution. So here's the handheld. We've got 2 little clips just here where we can pull this out, and this is the battery box. It actually utilises, like I said, the E865 capsule, so a real great sounding capsule, condenser, super cardioid, and it's also really forgiving. But what you'll actually notice is this is the same kind of capsules that you'll find on our G3, G4, 2000 series, even our 6000 and 9000 series uses this same microphone technology. So if you want to, you can change this, completely up to you. We have the mute button just here, and that can actually be disabled within the menu. So if you know maybe a lecturer or a presenter is going to be flicking around with that quite a bit, we can just disable that. And then we just have 2 more buttons on here. So there's no menu that you can actually play around with. The only other things that we have is a recessed on-off button. So it's really hard to press this accidentally. So that will stop any kind of misuse. And we also have the pairing button at the bottom there as well. So yeah, that is the handheld. Once again, it's all silver, really lightweight as well, actually, which is nice. And then we have the body pack. So exactly the same as the handheld. We've got silver, really lightweight once again. Antennas just popped up at the top, and here's the battery box. So I mentioned that we have a micro USB, and that's actually just tucked at the bottom here. So you can charge this while you're using it completely fine. And yeah, nice and easy to replace and remove that battery if required as well. And just like the handheld, there is no menu on this either. So all of the settings can be changed via the receiver. The next devices we have are the Boundary and the goosenecks. So here's the Boundary microphone just here, really small Boundary microphone, cardioid in pickup. So you should actually be able to use this between 2, maybe even 3 people, if we're sat next to each other. Obviously with 2 meters social distancing, maybe 1 to 1 at the moment. But yeah, we have a mute button just there, so we can toggle that and we can change the way in which that mute button actually operates. It can be a push to mute, a push to talk, and then we can just have a toggle on and off. And if we want to, we can also disable that mute button completely. At the top just there, we have a battery button. So when we press that, it's going to actually display how much battery life is left. And this is 8 hours plus battery life. And then at the bottom, at the back, we just have the battery connection just there. So it's just a little switch that you pop up, and then the battery simply falls out like that. So all of this stuff is really simple to replace, clean, and keep working and up to date. And then yeah, we have the gooseneck microphone as well. So exactly the same as the Boundary, actually, exactly the same, apart from we've got an XLR and we can use an external microphone. So we tend to recommend the MEG gooseneck microphone, but actually you can use any of our gooseneck style microphones. So this is an MZH 3015, a really small little gooseneck, along with our ME36 little short shotgun mic. So complete freedom with what you actually plug in here. And there are 2 versions, as you can see on the presentation. We have a 3-pin version, which is this one just here. Pops in nice and simple. And we also have the 5-pin version. The only difference between the 2 is the 5-pin version will actually have a light ring going around the top of the gooseneck. So if you do want a bit of a visual cue to see whether the microphone is on mute or not, the 5-pin version is the way to go. We then have some of the accessories that go into our transmitter. So the first one is the MKE1, and I actually have this one on me at the moment. So really discreet microphone. This is the smallest microphone that we produce in terms of its size. Actually utilised quite heavily within the West End theatres. and broadcast as well. So it's omnidirectional, amazing sound capture and intelligibility once again. And the actual cable is reinforced, so extremely difficult to break these, really rugged, pretty good with sweat resistance as well. So if you have these, you're pretty much guaranteed to get a long time of use out of them. We also have the head mic as well, the SL head mic, specially designed with the SpeechLine microphones in mind. So we are actually using the same capsule on this head mic. So this once again is the MK1 just on here. We also have a really lightweight frame. So this is about 6 grams. So once you pop it on your head, you can barely feel it. It's really lightweight and easy. And actually the cable is also detachable. So once again, when it comes to servicing and maintenance, really easy to keep these going. And yeah, then we have the MEG 14-40 gooseneck microphone, which is the standard kind of long gooseneck that uses a broadcast capsule on there, the KE10. But we also have, like I mentioned, the ME36, ME35, 34s with whichever gooseneck you want. So you can customize that however you choose. We then have a bunch of different chargers. So we'll start off with the 4-way charger. So there it is. This is for our handhelds and our body packs. We actually have some LED indicators on the side just there to let you know exactly how much battery life they have, so you can monitor that. This is also networkable. So when you drop the transmitters into the charger, like so, you're going to see that on Control Cockpit. So the back-end software will actually know whether these have been put on charge and how charged the devices actually are once again. So you don't need to go in the room and have a look at the charger to find that information out. So really nice 4-way charger. We also do the 2-way charger. That one is not networkable. So effectively cut this in half, remove the network port, and that is the 2-way charger. But actually coming this quarter, we are going to have a networkable version as well. So we have noticed that in lecture theatres and things like that, the lecturer may only want a handheld and a body pack. So the 2-way networkable charger will be coming to us very soon. And then, yeah, the final charger in the middle just there is the CHG2W. So this is the Qi induction charger. And these are specifically made for, once again, the gooseneck and the boundary microphones. You don't actually have to use our charger particularly. Any charger that uses the Qi standard will actually work. So if you have bespoke furniture that already has that technology built into it, you can just drop the boundary or gooseneck charger, gooseneck microphone onto it, and it will just start charging. But once again, all of these have the option for micro USB charging. So those are the chargers. And then we actually have some accessories for our rack mount receiver. So if you do need to extend the antennas from our rack mount receivers, you do have the option to do it. It's a little bit tricky because there is a lot of loss at 1.9 gigahertz. So you do need to bear that in mind. So this is specialized cable, 5 meter, 10 meter, and a maximum of 20 meter with that cable. So we do have a limitation of how far we can extend the antennas. And then we have some antenna wall mounts. So we have a single antenna wall mount for one receiver, and then we have a dual antenna mount, which is for obviously 2 receivers. But we do also offer antenna splitters and combiners. So instead of going 1-to-1 with your antennas and your receivers, you can actually combine your receivers all together and get them running off of the one antenna wall mount. So it can be a lot more cleaner. So you don't have 4, 5, 6 antennas on the wall. Once again, these all have to be passive. So you do get additional loss in the system by introducing these. So once again, wherever possible, we do try to recommend the use of the multi-channel receiver. It's PoE powered. It has Dante built into it, primary and secondary, and it is also 802.1x configurable. So really secure on your network as well. So yeah, we have the analog output on there, and all of this can be set up via control cockpit. So there actually isn't, once again, any kind of menu or display on the MCR. It all gets set up within control cockpit. And talking about control cockpit, now is probably a great time to do a little bit of a live demo for you. So this software is actually used for the initial setup, the monitoring and control of the equipment, the maintenance, and also the day-to-day kind of running and assistance. So it does device discovery and initial configuration. You can also get it to send you email and SMS notifications as well. There is dashboard monitoring, so you can see a nice overview of everything that's happening in that building. You can identify and pair the devices remotely. And of course, batch firmware updates. So we constantly release new updates. We really listen to customer feedback. So make sure you keep your devices up to date, because you may see some really useful features coming up in the future. And we already have released a bunch of really cool features. And of course, full campus-wide monitoring. So let me get control cockpit up and running for us, and we'll have a little bit of a live look at this. It will be nice and quick, but definitely worthwhile just having a look at that. So let's get that going. Here we go. So yeah, hopefully you can actually see that now. There it is. So this is the dashboard overview. We can see how many receivers are actually active, so active links, how many of them are on but actually don't have a link, so the transmitters are switched off, and which one of them have bad links, so how many of them are kind of going out of range. We can see how many batteries are in use and what the remaining battery life of this is, and we can also see how many batteries are in the chargers. So that's a really nice overview of what's going on. If we go into the devices tab and we actually have a look at some of these transmitters, or receivers rather, we can have a look at some of these settings. So here's a SpeechLine receiver just here, and here we go. So we have 4 tabs to deal with. We have an audio tab, device tab, network tab, and RF tab. So the audio tab is exactly what you'd expect it to be. We can add sound profiles, so we have male, female, and media, but we also have this custom option, which just brings up a 7-band EQ, so completely adjustable via that. Like I said, with the mute button, we can have it completely inactive. We can have an active, or we can make it push to talk or push to mute, so customizable. But yeah, definitely what's quite useful is the ability to switch off the mute button, just in case anyone plays around with it. You can monitor the microphone level, so you can make sure everything's working there, and you can add a low cut. We have mute buttons. One of them is actually based on a location as well. So once you give the product a location, you can mute that whole location. So if you are looking after a room, you can mute all the hardware in that room if you like. The audio sensitivity, so this is how sensitive the microphone is. When it's set to automatic, like we said, whether the microphone's close or far away, we're going to be picking up consistent audio. But if you want to, you can manually adjust this. And what's really cool is we're able to adjust the microphone settings via control cockpit. So with an analog system, if you wanted to adjust the sensitivity of the microphone, you'd have to physically go to the microphone and change those settings. So you don't need to do that with this system at all. You can adjust the receiver output, and then if you want to, just default everything back. Firmware updates within the device tab, along with device restarts and locking the system off as well. So that's quite nice to have that. Network settings, really standard, fixed or dynamic IP, MDNS on or off. And then we have the RF settings as well. So I mentioned you can actually restrict the range of the devices, and this is where you do it just here. We can set it to automatic, so the further away you walk, the higher the power goes, up to 100 milliwatts, or we can actually manually set that range, so 5 meters, 10 meters, 20 meters, 40 meters, and 100 meters. So yeah, really handy to have that, so we can stack up multiple systems in one space. And then we have a walk test. So when you press this button, you'll actually see what the receiver reception is like on the transmitter. So when you're walking around, you can have a look at the display, and that will tell you whether you're going out of range or not. A couple of additional mentionable things for this software is you can set profiles. So if you do have staff that are only working on certain days at certain times, and maybe they only want to see certain alerts, you can set all of this in here. You can have as many profiles as you like as well. And we mentioned that you can set this email and SMS notifications. So we have things like out of range detection, low battery level, all of the information that you see on here, we can get it to send automatic messages to people. So gone are the days of having to run into the rooms and checking the battery life. Yeah, the new way is all over the network. So yeah, that's Control Cockpit in a nutshell. Hopefully that's been quite useful. So I'll just quickly stop sharing and we'll get the presentation back up. Here we go. So hopefully you can see that again. I know that we're actually running a bit low on time, so I'll speed through the last bits just now. So we have an option for some complete sets. So these sets actually come in two different flavors. You get a rack mount version, which comes with the rack ears, and you also get a case version, which comes in a nice solid hard case, so you can move that around as more of a portable option. So we have the handheld set, the head mic set, and the lav set. And then we also have the boundary set, the 3-pin gooseneck, and also the 5-pin gooseneck set. What you may have noticed is there aren't any multi-channel receiver sets. The only reason for that is we aren't entirely sure what kind of transmitters you want to use with that receiver. So you buy the receiver and then you buy the whatever transmitters you want separately. So yeah, that's how you build it with a multi-channel receiver. Yeah, I think that's kind of it for the presentation and the information. I'll hand back over to John, and then we'll open up for Q&A. So please feel free to throw your questions our way. And here we go. Oh, sorry, before we pass over, just a very final summary slide. Sorry about that. So yeah, automatic frequency management and also interference management. So it has that backup channel, future-proof because we're working in the 1.9 gigahertz band, completely license-free as well. Automatic audio level management. There is Dante on the multi-channel receiver. It's also encrypted. You have the full software-based status monitoring, really simple charging options. Stackable, so up to 20, but we can actually scale that using multi-room mode, and really optimized towards speech intelligibility. So yeah, all those features just make the microphone or the technology really simple to use. You don't really need any audio know-how. You literally just turn these on, pair them up, and start using them. So yeah, I'll hand over to John. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Joe. Another fantastic presentation. Really appreciate that. I think I just want to point out there as well that Sennheiser do lead the way in digital wireless. We've seen a huge uptake in this over the last few years now. The applications for this kind of product are endless, especially through the corporate markets and education markets. So as I say, with Midwich, we partner strongly with Sennheiser. We're on hand here with the audio specialist to help you with your requirements for Sennheiser SpeechLine. Please feel free to drop us a line directly. You can either speak to us via your account manager, or you can speak to us directly at audio@midwich.com or on 0161 861 1240. Like I say, we appreciate your time today. I hope you found the content very useful. We also have some demonstration kit as well. So if you do have a requirement, feel free to contact us, and we can arrange for some demonstration kit or a demonstration should you require that. We do also have some up and coming events on the 15th of April where we'll be looking at the Sennheiser Mobile Connect. So if you do have time, and would love it if you could join us for that particular event. Okay. Again, once again, thank you for your time. Really much appreciated. And we'll open up the Q&A session. Okay, and I'll hand back over to Mark.
Thank you very much indeed, John. Excellent. Well, I've already got a question coming, I'm pleased to say. Joe, can the wireless gooseneck bases provide phantom power?
They do provide phantom power, yes. They do. Excellent. Indeed.
Excellent. Yes, that's the goosenecks we provide with it need phantom power as well. So yeah, Roman has dropped in the into the Q&A the webinar recording for TCC2, which we did a couple of weeks ago. Just while I mention that, Joe, what are you actually using today to capture audio?
Yeah, really good question, actually. So yeah, the entire time I've been using our Team Connect Ceiling 2. So that's up about 1.5 meters in front of me. And yeah, hopefully the audio quality has been top class the whole call.
Excellent. I certainly thought so. And can I just say as well, Joe, to everybody out there as well, considering it's supposed to be 2 of them doing that presentation today, you did really well, Joe. Thank you very much. I'm sorry you were left on your own. I'm 173 miles away, so I couldn't join.
No problem. No problem.
North, so, but nicely done, Joe. Also, Roman has dropped in there, I'd say, the session for next week and some other sessions as well, I think. If you want to have a look at those or take a copy of those, that'd be great. Just while waiting for any other, also 2 new questions I couldn't have, I beg your pardon while I've been talking. Is the output on the multi-channel receiver balanced or unbalanced?
Yeah, so it's a balanced output on the analog out. And like we said, actually, it's a mix of all 4 channels coming out of that. You can either set it to automatic, so you're getting relatively similar levels for all 4 of those channels, or you can set it to manual and you can adjust all 4 of them independently. But you do have all 4 signals coming out of that one balanced connection.
And another question, multi-channel receiver only 1x Cat6 cable for PoE, Dante and cockpit control, exclamation.
Yes. You've got it, yeah, 1 cable to the device, it will power it, it will control it. Yeah, it's going to do everything, and the audio as well. So yeah, really nice, simple solution. And we do also have a daisy chain mode, so we can take the secondary port and we can then feed that to another MCR or to any Dante device effectively. And yeah, it keeps the cabling really nice and neat.
If they wanted to, though, they could use 2 cables and keep the audio and the PoE and cockpit control separate.
Yeah, exactly. If you want to, one of them will do the power and the control, and the other one will do the audio. So there are plenty of networks out there where you have your kind of control network, your corporate network, and then they have a separate Dante network for the audio stream. So completely fine to do that on the MCR as well. So that's just called split mode. So we just change the settings for the output a bit.
Cool. Thank you, Joe. Another question we frequently get asked is DECT. Is that a worldwide frequency?
Yeah, really good question. I completely glossed over that. So yeah, the DECT band, it is a global set of standards, but actually there are regions. So you can Google this, it's just called ITU regions. And there are basically 4 different regions across the world, but the UK shares the same region with pretty much all of Europe. So this one system, SpeechLine, can be used in pretty much anywhere in the UK and Europe. There is a different band for the Americas, and there's also a different band for Asia. But yeah, in terms of what we can use, we're in region 1. And we can use this equipment anywhere in the UK and Europe and a couple of other places as well. But yeah.
The biggest time we get asked that question normally is on a product we call AVX, which is a product that is meant for broadcasting cameras, really, for outdoor broadcasts, for electronic news gathering, where they literally just give the presenter a handheld. Oops, a handheld magically disappeared then. Which is black, which actually weirdly is black when you're talking into a camera. You won't want to see a grey one. Grey is great for corporate use, and so education and corporate like to have grey mics. But when you get the same in the AVX world, it's a black mic, and obviously we have to be a bit careful there because you can't take that into America if you bought it in the UK. That's probably the worst thing you can do.
Yeah, most definitely. You will be breaking the law if you take a UK version and use it in the US, I think you'll be sitting on frequencies that they use for astronomy potentially.
I thought it was military, but
one of those two. But either one, you wouldn't want to. You wouldn't want to sit on those frequencies. There is another thing that I actually forgot to mention, which is a really cool feature that once again all goes towards the ease of use, which is when you actually have the body pack or the handheld sat in the charger. When you pull it out of the charger, the actual transmitter will automatically turn on. So once again, this all goes back to how easy it is for the end user to actually operate. So if you imagine you had this in a lecture theatre and they walk into the room, it's sat there like this, they pull it out, within 5 to 10 seconds, the actual microphone will switch on. Within about 10 to 15 seconds, it will be repaired with the receiver, whichever one that is, and then they can start using it immediately. So really nice feature.
Okay, another question we often get asked is how on earth, if 1.9 gig is got high loss, how on earth can we get 100 up to 100 meters away from a receiver? What transmission power are we allowed to use in DECT that allows us to get that immense distance compared to standard RF?
Yeah, so there are some limitations with a UHF system in terms of the output power. So with UHF systems, depending on where you're operating, you can generally go 30 milliwatts, maybe 50 milliwatts on the output power in Europe. But we're much lower down in the spectrum. So we quote about 100 meters with our analog systems as well. But the reason we can boast up to 100 meters line of sight with our SpeechLine system is that the DECT regulations allow us to go up to 250 milliwatt peak on the actual output of these devices. So we have about 5 times, no, maybe even more than that, nearly 10 times the output power on these that we do on an analog system. A really nice thing actually about the DECT band, effectively the higher in the frequencies you go, the more reflective the RF is. So usually when you're nice and low down in the spectrum, you're going to be penetrating through objects. The higher up you go, the more likely it is to reflect in a room. So these are predominantly made for indoor use. And yeah, it's going to be reflecting off of the ceilings, the floor, the walls, goes around corners quite well. But that's effectively how we can get up to 100 meters. It reflects quite well. And also we have 250 milliwatt peak available, which I will add is a lot lower than what your mobile phones can output in terms of their power. They can go as high as a couple of watts and you have that in your pocket or next to your head. So yeah.
We have another question. Can you set mute state when removed from charger?
So yeah, once they're removed from charger, they're going to automatically repair to the receiver. And at that stage, you can either disable it on the receiver itself, or you can disable it via control cockpit. So yeah, absolutely fine. If it's out of the charger, it will have a link to the receiver, and then you can actually send the command via the receiver back to the transmitter. So this is something that maybe I haven't quite touched on in that much detail, which is how DECT actually works. So we're very used to, the transmitter transmits RF and the receiver is receiving RF. With a DECT system, it's doing that, but what it's also doing is the receiver is sending data back to the transmitter. And this is how we can see how much the RF quality is on the transmitter. Even though, that's being received on the receiver, we're sending it back as well so we can read that information. That's how we can deactivate the mute button via the receiver because of this backlink. So DECT is extremely good for that. It allows remote control of the devices, basically. Hopefully that made sense.
I'm not sure if I've read that question a different way. I think Phil, who's asked the question, wants to know whether if you can automatically set the unit that when it comes out of the charger, it automatically goes to mute. That can only be done if the mute switch was left in the mute position when it was put in the charger and it's left active. Yeah. You can't physically set it so that every time one comes out of the charger, it's in the mute mode.
Yeah, it will remember its previous state. is what I would say. So if it's switched on and it's muted, the mute button is on when it goes in the charger. When it comes back out, it will be muted. It'll be on and muted effectively, yeah.
Well, I can't see any more questions. We've just slightly overrun as well. I thank you all for attending. We hope you found this very useful. Please don't forget any questions, anything about this SpeechLine. The first port of call is Midwich. Audio@midwich.com is a absolutely great source of information. When these guys come on to us and asking us questions about products, it's never easy. They've always got something tricky to ask us. They can deal with 99% of the questions out there. And the most important thing is if they need extra help, they are never afraid to ask. And if we need to talk directly with yourselves, just to make sure we're getting the best information across to you, we can do that as well. It's really a great relationship we have. And thank you guys again. Cheers. Have a good day. A great weekend as well. Great long weekend.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Mark. Thanks, Joe. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks.
Cheers.
Cheers. Bye.